Welcome back, and what a delight to have with us, especially today, right after the Iowa caucus. We welcome back Josh Bernstein. He's the TV talk show host and a spokesman for AMAC, which is the Association of Mature American Citizens. By the way, that's the organization to join, not AARP, but AMAC, AMAC.US is the place to go. Hi, Josh. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing great. Great to be back with you.
Yeah, good to see you. Well, what did you think of last night's caucus turnout?
Well, again, it was a record-breaking caucus. More people caucused this time than I believe in history. More votes were cast. Ted Cruz broke a record for the most votes cast in a caucus. But I think there's a lot to take from it. I think that, I was publicly chastised for saying that Donald Trump should not have missed the last debate. I said it was going to hurt him politically. Everyone that is a big Trump supporter said, no, don't worry about it. It's fine. We did find out afterwards it was going to be an ambush, though. So maybe in the end run, I don't know. Maybe it was right. But I think politically it may have damaged him a bit. But look, let's face it. He placed second without really any organization in the state, very, very little organization on the ground. And he still placed second. I think the surprise of the night was Marco Rubio. He basically did very, very well, beat the polling as it would suggest. But also, I think the spoiler here was Dr. Ben Carson. I know that there was some talk behind the scenes that, I think Steve King put out a tweet saying something that Carson may have dropped out and may have led to some of the voting for him or not. I don't know. It's hard to say. But if you took Carson's 9%, 9.3%, whatever it was, out of the equation, and you added half of that to Trump and half of that to Cruz, I think Cruz would have actually had an even bigger victory. But ultimately, I think that, that was a state that was tailor-made, of course, for Ted Cruz. And just so folks know, I haven't endorsed anybody as a member of the media. I'm very objective, and I've been able to talk about every candidate the same because, again, I'm not in the tank for anybody, and I haven't endorsed anybody. But nonetheless, I think it was an interesting night. I think you're looking at a three-man race, as most of the pundits have said, and we'll see what happens next week in New Hampshire.
Across the board, it's almost a coin toss. I mean, you only got 5 votes difference between Hillary and Bernie. I mean, that's not well for Hillary, and it says a lot for Bernie, don't you think?
Speaking of coin toss, it's amazing that the Democratic Party believes so much in the voting process that they actually use something that would start a Super Bowl or a playoff game to decide who wins a precinct. Unbelievable when I saw that. And just so happens to be that Hillary won all 6 of the coin toss. I don't know, a little strange on that part. But yeah, look, I think it was a bad night for Hillary, obviously, as Bernie Sanders showed that, he was right there neck and neck with her. I don't know, have they even called a winner yet? I'm not even sure if they have yet. It looks like they're still counting some votes. There was a story out that said over 90 precincts didn't have the right tally or didn't have the results in on time. So who knows what's going on that side, but it's getting very interesting, to say the least.
In some ways, Iowa performed traditionally. If you look back, they gave it to Huckabee. They've given it to Santorum. So they have a faith-based community within the state of Iowa that usually goes with the most pronounced person of faith. That would certainly play well for Cruz, and it certainly played well for Rubio. So some ways they've held their tradition there. But look at this. You've got Trump and Rubio 1 point apart. That is significant.
It is. I mean, you can look at that a bunch of different ways. You can say that, well, him missing the debate and also the fact that he didn't have any organization and he was going off of pure name recognition and he still placed second bodes well for him. Or you could say, look, he was 1 point away from being in 3rd place in Iowa. I thought his response of being humble and appreciative of the voters of Iowa was the right channel to take, certainly. And, I listened to all 3 of their speeches. Donald Trump's was the shortest, 3 minutes long or so. And I love how he said, on to New Hampshire, and, we're going to beat the heck out of whoever they put in front of us, and that kind of tone. Rubio's speech was very good, and Cruz's speech was all right. It was very long-winded, I'll be honest, and also the fact that at one point he used "yes, we can" in his speech, and that was about all I could handle when he said that.
Oh. All right, so how significant is Iowa? Because it doesn't go on to produce a president.
Not in the Republican field, it does not. What's the significance? Honestly, probably not much, because look, you have to understand a caucus is very different from a primary. I mean, a caucus, I've explained on other shows, it's kind of like the British Parliament, but miniature. You know, people get up and they talk about who they like, why they like this candidate, why they don't like this candidate, and they kind of get together and they talk about it, and then, you know, have speeches and things like that, and then they go and they vote. So it's one of those things where, you know, you could be like, hey, Bob, who are you going to vote for? Oh, okay, no problem, George. Hey, Sally, who are you going to vote for? And then the next thing you know, a candidate walks in the room, and then you feel guilty. It's like, okay, now that they're here, I got to vote for them. So it is one of those things where the science of it all is certainly fleeting. And with a primary, it's a little bit different. So I truly believe that Trump is going to do A-OK in New Hampshire.
All right, Josh, before I take a break, I want to go back to the Democratic side just for a moment, Hillary and Bernie. Bernie has pretty much stayed away from Hillary's email scandal, and it's growing and mounting. I mean, this thing is just unbelievable. You can't help but think that some form of an indictment's inevitable. But setting that aside for a moment, Bernie has decided not to use that. One of the theories is he thinks she will be indicted, therefore he hasn't really burned her supporters, and he could get them if somebody else got in, or he's been waiting to use it later. What's your think?
I think you're right. I think he's more than likely waiting to use it later. I think that she has been tagged as the untrustworthy candidate, without a doubt. And I think that ultimately that's going to be an uphill battle to climb, whether she wins the nomination or not. She's not trustworthy. And I think America would choose a hothead over a liar any day of the week, and then twice on Sundays. But we'll see what happens. I mean, look, the fact is, and the American people should be very, very frightened of the fact that 43% identified in the Iowa caucus as socialists. 43%. That's a huge number. And to think that, you know, Barack Obama in 2008 said he was going to spread the wealth around, and it was such a shocking comment. Now they're talking about their candidate spreading the wealth around with 90% Francois Hollande type, you know, tax levels and things like that. So God forbid that guy gets anywhere close to the nomination and the presidency, we're going to be in a world of hurt.
Well, but you make the point. Look at the percentage of people that voted for him last night. I can't help it. That's going to also show up in New Hampshire.
You know what? Honestly, if I was there in Iowa, I would have grabbed each one of these kids and just asked them point blank, why are you supporting him? What do you think he's possibly going to do that's going to be different from the 7.5, 8 years of Barack Obama's presidency? And I guarantee you 9 out of 10 of them will have a blank stare as if they're on a train track and there's a deer right there and the train's coming at them, and they're going to have that deer in headlights look. I think it's really going to boil down to educating the youth about what socialism is, because again, they're not learning it in school. They're being indoctrinated into it at a very young early age, and it's very scary because they graduate high school with a degree in democratic studies, then they go to college and they meet their Marxist professors who tell them that the Constitution is an inherently racist document, and then from there, until they get married and have kids, do they not really get a chance to figure things out. So we've got a lot of youthful idiots, if you want to use that word, that are supporting him blindly because they think somehow he's outside the system. Meanwhile, he's been a senator for a very long time in Vermont. This is the guy that brought radicalization to the state of Vermont in the 1960s. It doesn't get much more radical than Bernie Sanders.
Is Bernie the Trump of the left?
Well, that's an interesting statement. I don't know. I think that in some weird, strange way, Bernie probably, you know, loves America. But what he wants to do to America is make it worse, not better. And by making it worse, I mean by, raising taxes, spreading the wealth around, distributing wealth, taking from the rich, giving to the poor. I mean, he's a 74-year-old Robin Hood, let's face it. Donald Trump, on the other side, he's not a conservative. He's an independent businessman. And I think that ultimately he'd surround himself with the right team. He has a lot of rhetoric, if you will, soaring rhetoric, as Barack Obama did in 2008. So if he was to win, I would certainly like to see how he governs. I think a lot of that would have to do with the cabinet that he puts together.
All right, let me take a break here. We'll be right back with Josh Bernstein. By the way, AMAC, he's the representative, the national representative for AMAC, and that is the Association of Mature American Citizens. Let me tell you, this is the one you want to join, not AARP. You want to join AMAC. Go to amac.us. We'll be right back.
I'm Paulina Leiser, producer of Focus Today. Thank you for watching this video, and make sure to check our other videos at theDove.us.
Hi, welcome back, and we are talking today with our good friend John Bernstein. He is a TV talk show host himself. He also is the national spokesperson for the Association of Mature American Citizens, a great organization, and this is the one that you want to join, not AARP, but the AMAC, A-M-A-C, and their website is amac.us. Josh, let me see if I can frame this next question right. It appears that Donald Trump spent more of his time being a D than he has an R. He supported more Ds than Rs. And the main thing on his resume, he seems to be absolutely a premier businessman, which I think plays well as it deals with the economy. But we're not truly vetting him, nor did we vet Obama. Are we about to repeat ourselves?
It's a good question. I think that, as I've said before, right from the very beginning, I've never thought Donald Trump was a conservative. I've always thought that he was an independent. I think he's even less conservative than even a Ronald Reagan. With that being said, he is basically the Donald Trump party. He's really kind of, much more centered about what he wants to do and what he wants to accomplish. The art of the deal, those types of things. So what he's going to do, basically, if he is elected, is I would hope that he'd be a good delegator and that he would put certain people into certain positions and tell them to straighten these messes out. Because, again, we've got a lot of messes, not just from a tax standpoint, but from a trade standpoint, from an immigration standpoint. I mean, there's so many things that are going wrong right now in America. So I think what's happening is the people are hearing what he's saying, and they're believing what he's saying, and they're hoping and praying that this is going to be the thing that they can latch onto, so that when he is elected, if he is elected, that he can then take it to the next level and he can start to do and implement some of the things. One of the things about Donald Trump is he's not going to really care what Congress says. He's not going to care what the Democrats say. He's not going to care what anybody says, almost in some ways like a Barack Obama. The only difference is he'll do things that I would imagine would be pro-liberty, pro-freedom, and hopefully pro the Constitution.
All right, because some study shows that of all the presidents, the one who has used the business sector, the capitalist sector, the least was Barack Obama. The ones who used it the most was Eisenhower, Reagan, and W. Bush. By using a lot of people from the secular, from the capitalist field into government as advisors. Do you think Donald Trump, with his business background, would follow along in that?
I absolutely do, yeah. I think he would. He's talked about Carl Icahn. He's talked about some other folks that are, are giants of industry, if you will. I've interviewed a couple of people that are very close to Donald Trump that say that the man is a genius, even though he's not that articulate when explaining his ideas. That could be part of his strategy. Who knows? But I think you're right. I don't think you're going to see in an administration like that a bunch of, inside the Washington type hacks in his administration. I think you'll see a lot of people from the outside. Yeah, he's going to have a couple of people sprinkled in. You'll probably see a lot of governors. I'm sure Chris Christie and Huckabee will find, positions in a Trump candidacy and in a Trump administration. Sarah Palin, Secretary of Energy, Dr. Ben Carson, Health and Human Services Secretary or Surgeon General. So the list goes on and on and on. I think that you're going to find some good quality, competent, and capable people that he will surround himself around if he is the nominee.
All right, O'Malley got out yesterday, Huckabee got out yesterday. I can't help but think we're going to see a great falling away here shortly, because what a lot of people don't understand, it takes a lot of money to keep a campaign afloat. And if it's still the big three coming out, and I'm talking on the Republican side, if it's still the big three coming out of New Hampshire, there's not much the others can do, right?
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think that Kasich is banking a lot on New Hampshire. And I can see him getting out if he doesn't bode very well in New Hampshire. Chris Christie, the same thing. He's also been spending a lot of time in New Hampshire. Again, Chris Christie had a 10th place finish in Iowa. Not very good. So I think you're going to see a lot of those folks, even Rand Paul. So if you see those three, more than likely end up leaving, depending on how he does, maybe even Ben Carson, I don't know. But you're looking at 4 or 5 less faces more than likely by the next debate. So we'll see.
All right. Why didn't Carly Fiorina, excuse me, why didn't she spark more? I mean, her answers seem to be pretty good.
You know, I don't know. Maybe there's an authenticity issue with her. I thought she's, you know, a dynamic woman. I think she's smart. She's articulate. She's done well for herself. She's done well in business. But I think in some respects you had the boisterous, you know, Donald Trump that kind of had the same type of credentials as her, obviously a lot more credentials, and has been more well-known and more wealthy. So I think in some respects, as he's done with most of these other candidates, he kind of sucks all the oxygen out of the room.
Jeb Bush was noted to spend as high as $2,800 per vote. That's a lot of money. And yet
Right.
he is not doing well. I just can't see him surviving this much longer, even though he has a lot of money.
Well, here's the thing. I said this out on social media. I can't figure out if Barack Obama or Jeb Bush's super PAC is worse at wasting money. It's a tough call. I would probably say Barack Obama, but I'm pretty sure that super PAC is a close second. Unbelievable when you think about it for what they're getting, 2-3% in the polls, and they spent, what, $50, $75 million, whatever it's been. It's been a lot of money, and that money could have been spent in much other better places than going to Jeb Bush, who's not moving or pushing the needle at all. So I think you're right. I think that his heart doesn't seem like he's really in it. He seems like he's going through the motions. Maybe he wanted to run for other people's satisfaction. Who knows? But I don't think he's going to last much longer either.
All right, let's go over to New Hampshire. It's a week away. Here we go. This is the first primary state where everybody gets a vote, and that is very significant. It appears that Rubio and Cruz are organized in the state. Trump is, but still he doesn't have that ground game like the other guys do. He's still relying on his notoriety. How do you see New Hampshire coming out?
Well, I see New Hampshire coming out more than likely Trump and Rubio at the top, followed by Cruz in third place, more than likely. And then, I don't know, it's possible that Kasich could surprise. Maybe he would be in third place or fourth place. Maybe Christie, I don't know, maybe he'd fare a little bit better. But I think you're looking at the top two, more than likely is going to be Trump and Rubio. Not sure who's going to win. I know the polls suggest 20-plus point percentage margins for Donald Trump. So if that is to hold up, then obviously he would be the winner. But we'll see. Rubio has surprised. Look, he was polling 14-15% in Iowa, and he ended up with 23. Big difference. So I think that the Hispanic populations in some of these swing states is going to propel him and get him up closer to the top. And what you have to understand is that as Rubio ascends, the establishment is then going to all of a sudden get new life breathed into them, thinking, oh my goodness, we actually have a horse here that maybe can get to the finish line, and maybe they'll start attacking Donald Trump again, because I think there was a lull in attacking him for a while because they felt like the inevitable, he was going to win outright and that's it. Now all of a sudden the establishment has a couple of extra heartbeats left, and they may start to attack Donald Trump even more, especially if Rubio places second or possibly wins New Hampshire.
All right, two questions come out of that. What's, in your mind, what's happening to Cruz then?
Well, again, 62% of people identified in the Republican caucuses in Iowa as evangelical Christians. You're not going to see those types of numbers in New Hampshire. There are some, but certainly not that many. Again, it was a tailor-made situation for Ted Cruz to do well in Iowa. I think he places third or fourth in New Hampshire. I think you're looking at the live free and die state. You got a lot more moderates. You got a ton of independents in that state. And you've got a lot of libertarians in that state. And again, the libertarians like Ted Cruz's message of limited government and things like that. But I think you're looking more at a Donald Trump, Marco Rubio type of situation in New Hampshire.
Couple minutes here left. All right, so you see Rubio on the rise, and yet Rubio in the last two debates was by far more vocal about his faith than Cruz was.
Yeah.
He is on the rise, and so why do you think he'll do good in New Hampshire?
Well, again, because I think the Hispanic population, that's part of it, but also the fact that he's considered to be more of a moderate. But you know what? When you look at his conservative review record, I think he's somewhere around 85 or 86. That's pretty darn good, actually. So a lot of his conservative credentials are clearly there, other than maybe amnesty, which is, again, why the conservative base, has kind of taken a second look at him and said, you know, we think he's part of the establishment. He may be part of the establishment, but he's to the right of the establishment, without a doubt, if you look at his records.
Well, this is fascinating. Thank you, Josh, for your time. By the way, people who want to tell us quickly, 30 seconds, AMAC.
Sure. AMAC, again, the conservative alternative to groups out there like AARP. You can go to www.amac.us. Tell them that you heard Josh Bernstein on the Dove TV program, and we'll even give you a free membership.
Wow, that's great. And where's your TV show? Where can people get it?
Go to YouTube, look up the Josh Bernstein television show, or go to my website at joshbernsteinpoliticalwriter.com.
Thanks, Josh. We'll talk to you soon. We'll talk to you on the other side of New Hampshire, okay?
You got it. Anytime.
All right. All right. And again, go to AMAC, AMAC.us, and check it out. Make sure you tell them when you connect with there that you saw Josh on the Dove on Focus today. We'll see you next time.